All right, so we are here today with my good friend, Mark Guiliana. I had the pleasure of probably, I guess, 4 years, or maybe we started the project 5 years ago by the time it all got done from inception, to come up with an idea of trying to really capture Mark's approach to the drum set, which is a very creative and interesting approach. He's taken his tools and put them all together in a way that makes him, I would say, one of the real unique voices on the instrument over the last, bunch of years. And we wanted to see if there was a way to capture that in a bottle and put it in a book so that other people could learn from it and take Mark's approach to playing and the tools that he really used to make him play the way he does, so to speak. So the book was, really well received when it came out. It won, I think, the Reader's Poll that year in Modern Drummer, and some other. It got a lot of recognition around the world. And Mark, it was kind enough today to spend a few minutes chatting about the book and about his approach really to music and his approach to drum set. So let me welcome Mark Guiliana from the West Coast, formerly of New Jersey.
Yes. Hello, sir. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, Mark. So how did you think, really come up with the concept of thinking that you could teach somebody how to be creative on the drums?
Yeah, that's the big question. I think it started in my own journey. When I was younger, I was studying with Joe Bergamini, who we all know and love. He was my first teacher. And when I was younger, I didn't have any of my own ideas. I was reliant on, Joe showing me the way or books giving me ideas. Everywhere I was going, ideas were being provided to me that I could then learn. But as I started to get into jazz and started to be in musical situations where I was improvising, I realized that I can't just rely on other people's ideas. I need to, in that moment, be able to create my own ideas. So I kind of did a bit of a 180 and started to try to dismantle the things that I had accumulated and almost start from scratch and build these new ideas. And that's where these tools started to appear, the dynamics, rate, orchestration, phrasing.
So dynamics. Let's play our idea at different dynamics. Again, this might seem painfully simple, but it's important to understand how this idea will sound at different dynamics. And of course, with this idea, it might be easy. But with other ideas, it's not always guaranteed that the idea will be easy or comfortable to play at a very soft dynamic or at a very loud dynamic. So here we go. Our original is mezzo forte. How would that sound at piano? Double forte.
And I think one of the challenges and one of the things that isn't talked about much is that we typically fill ourselves up with other people's ideas, which again is an important process, but we don't want to stop there. The first thing we need to do is make sure that we have room for our own ideas. And if we're just full of other people's ideas, we're not even giving ourselves a chance to create our own ideas. So once we make that room, then hopefully with the use of these tools and this way of thinking, we could start to build our own ideas. And that, to me, that's what creativity is. It's taking some ownership and making sure that your fingerprint and your personality is really inside the musical statements you're making, because I think that's what we all wish for, or what attracts me to my favorite musicians, the real unique personality and spirit.
So now let's take this concept of paradiddles being interrupted by the bass drum and bring it back into our loop of eighth notes, triplets, 16th notes, and triplets. 1, 2, 3, 4.
So, a lot of guys and talk about having, kind of a toolbox that they can call on, whether it's a fills or grooves, or let's say it's an odd meter thing and you got to play something in 7 or in 5 or whatever. And they kind of have these fallback either patterns or, it could be a pattern as a fill or a pattern as a groove. Did you feel you had to unlearn some of that stuff to play the way you do? Like, how did you approach that?
That's exactly right. I think that toolbox is important and is very valuable. I think I see it as two different paths. There's the path of today is a Wednesday and we go to rehearsal tonight and we have a gig on Friday, and the band leader says, here's a new song, and it's in 7/8. Maybe it's uncomfortable. It's something you haven't really done before. Now you have 48 hours to be able to perform it. What can I do to get through it? And that's when you reach into your toolbox. You reach for those comfortable things that you can rely on. And so there's nothing, that's an important way. But for me, the kind of more big picture path is the one that there is no deadline or there is no finish line. So I want to really try to address things totally at the fundamental level. And I don't want to, I want to try to avoid having those 2 or 3 or 4 comfortable licks, or because whatever's most comfortable are the things we're going to reach for when we're playing. And in an improvised situation, I want to be as free as possible and as present as possible to choose to play the things that are best for that moment. And like we talk about in the book and in the video component, we don't know what will be right for that situation until that moment arrives. So instead of planning specific things to play at home, where it's more about preparation and development of the fundamentals, so that when we get in that moment, hopefully we're equipped to create the things in that moment.
It's a challenge,
It's the challenge. Yeah.
Actually, I think getting started going down that path, I think, everybody grows up wanting to sound like whoever, you could name 50 drummers and, I love the way he plays, or I love the groove he plays on that record, or whatever. So I think kind of having the strength and determination to be your own person and come up with your toolbox is a challenge. And I think in the book, you really do show, like you said, those 4 elements: dynamics, rate, orchestration, and phrasing, right? You take those and mix them up in a blender and show how, when you pour out the milkshake, it's your milkshake, right? It's not,
For sure.
Jones or Steve Gadd or Philly Joe, whoever it is. So I think the book really does give people those building blocks to help find and develop their own voice. I love the videos that we kind of sprinkled throughout the book to reinforce some of the ideas. And obviously the digital version that we have is so elegant, because you just tap the button, the video pops up, you tap it again, it goes away, you keep going through the book.
I have to, if I can interrupt, I have to say that the digital element, the digital version, was a total surprise for me. I knew you were going to offer digital, but I didn't realize until it existed that the video component would be so embedded. And I've gotten so much positive feedback in that way.
Okay.
And every time someone compliments the digital version, I have to agree, because I say, yeah, I didn't expect that for it to be so seamless. In my mind, it was always, kind of a PDF and a video file, and which is cool, but the fact that they live together, it's that's exciting.
Really, just to digress for a second, for me, having when I saw what the digital medium allowed, it just really, to me, is it's better than a book when there's media. You know, you know, there's two things with digital. One is you can fit, you know, 100 drum books in your, you know, iPad,
Yep.
laptop, and the other is accessing media, whether it's play along audio or, you know, video, you know, whatever it is. It just makes it so much easier to use. You're not, you know, slipping in discs into a hard drive or, you know, having to download things. It's just boom. It's, you know, it's right there. It's been great, and I too hear once people do give it a shot, they really, I think there's sort of no turning back once you experienced it because of the ease of use, you know.
Yep. Yep.
One other question, and I'll let you go. You know, we'll put some video in on this little interview here so people could get a good sense of you know what else is contained in the book. But talk a little bit about your concept and approach to rhythmic rate change, and you know how you kind of navigate that.
For me, this is the meat of the book, the rate element, and it's still the thing that I'm working on the most. It just came from my own experiences. I found that, you know, I'm always trying to zoom out and think, what are my most important responsibilities, no matter what situation I'm in, whether it's my own music or playing someone else's music, it doesn't matter what style. Typically, for us drummers, the main responsibility is playing with strong time, strong, consistent time, and good feeling. And so a lot of my practicing always hopefully comes back to that, comes back to strengthening my time. And when I was younger, I found that if you asked me to play only 16th notes, I could do that comfortably, or play inside of 16th notes, or only play inside of triplets, I could do that comfortably. But if you asked me to move between them, the entire feeling would suffer. And I was hearing drummers that I admire moving between them, and I loved what it did to the music. It can create really exciting things inside the music. So I thought, okay, I got to get this together. And then I realized, oh, this is also really going to help my expression, but also, you know, the big picture feeling of my time. So, I've just really focused on that and continue to. And in the book, you know, especially on paper, it appears as a very simple concept, but it is not easy.
So now here's another example of a 4-bar phrase where the rates are changing in different places. 1, 2, 3, 4. So you'll notice on the page now there are 3 empty 4-bar phrases for you to fill in your own variations, or ideally improvise your own variations based on this template. So now I'll try to improvise one. 1, 2, 3, 4.
And I think this is a good example of sometimes what's implied in a drum book is that, okay, there's an exercise on page 3. Okay, can you play it? Yes, we played it. Now, I'm done. You know, you check it and I'm done. Now turn to the next page. And I tried to make it in a way that nothing is ever, you're never done. You can certainly move on, but it's certainly never done. And especially with these simple ideas, they can always be improved. And we need to be our own coach. We need to be our own biggest critic when we're working on these things. because almost anyone who gets the book could play eighth notes, triplets, sixteenths, triplets. They can play that right away. But it's we need to zoom in and say, but are you really playing that? How well can you play that? And that's the thing for me. I keep returning to the most fundamental elements, and I still, and probably will forever, find ways to improve it. So I love the things that, as I mentioned before, don't really have a finish line, but I trust that investing in those things will really pay off.
No, that's great advice. And, it was a pleasure to work with you on the project. I think it really came out great. In the beginning, I wasn't exactly sure, where it was going. I think we did a lot of, bobbing and weaving, and kind of stumbled on some things and put our minds together with, you and myself and Joe. And I think it's a really great book that stands the test of time and has something real unique to say. So I just want to thank you again for sharing some time today. Mark, Guiliana, exploring your creativity on the drum set, on Hudson Music and Hudson Digital. Thank you, Mark. Stay safe out there, and we'll talk soon.
Cool. Thanks, Rob.
Thank you.